Thank you for showing up today. This is going to be so exciting. I am actually going to use the tarot cards to communicate with the one and only George Carlin, the comedian. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with George Carlin, what the fuck is wrong with you? Where have you been for the last 40 years? Okay. He was great. He was born on May 12th, 1937, and unfortunately, he died June 22nd of 2008. He was a stand-up comedian. Now, his dark comedy also reflected on politics and countercultures. He was awarded the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor in 2008. He was one of the list of the top 10 American comedians. Now, he was born in Manhattan, near New York City on May 12th, to Mary Nieberry and Patrick John Carlin. He had an older brother named Patrick Jr. His father was an Irish immigrant who worked as an advertising manager for the Sun, and his mother was a secretary who had been born in the United States. So, this was so interesting that he made his career in comedy. And boy, was he ever funny, but he also had a great deal of truth that he spoke. Now, he actually had 7 words routine, and this actually caused the Supreme Court to get involved. This is really humorous. I have here his 7 words because back then the media didn't want your listeners to be exposed to anything too negative, I guess you could say. So his words are, I don't know if I can say these all on YouTube. Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, tits. Okay, I did it that way. All right, so looking at the numbers, he was born May 12th, which made him a 3, right? So his core number is a 3, which made him communication. Now, he was born in May. These people are the shaker-uppers, right? They're the shaker-uppers. When you add all this together, you get who he was as a personality. 8, powerful. And yes, he was powerful. His life path is a 1. He was meant to be alone, not work in a group or have a company or a CEO or, anything like that. He was an independent comedian, and that was his life path. Was a number 1 to be independent, number 3 to communicate, number 7 he was intelligent. He had 2 and 7s in his name, George, and 7s are also a number that need a certain amount of alone time. Now, what I find fascinating about George Carlin was he was like futuristic. He predicted one way the planet could get rid of people was through intelligent viruses that mutated. His views were so much into the future that if you start to listen to some of his comedy shows and presentations, you begin to see that this guy really was not only number 1 intelligent, but number 2, he could see what was coming in the future almost as if he had a crystal ball. So I am really happy to get out my tarot cards and bring in George Carlin and see what he has for a message. And this will be interesting. Now, I'm going to start out with Steampunk, which is the tarot deck that I like to communicate with people who are passed over. So I just kind of spread them out, and I just asked George Carlin, are you here, and what do you have to say? And of course, we're going to be interested in knowing this. So he shows up with a cigarette and a glass of wine. Isn't that funny? And he's the king of comedy. He's the king of cups, which is the emotional. This is totally him, folks. I mean, he even had at some point a facial hair that kind of reminds you of that. Let's see if it's on here. Well, there you have it. There you have it. Oh, there you have a better view. Look at that. And with tarot cards, you can't make this stuff up. Here we have the facial hair right there, just like he had it. George Carlin impressed upon us to pull the card that best even represents him. Now, the eyeglasses are above his head. He didn't see the world in the way that we see it. He had a much higher vision, right? That's why he shows the glasses up here. He's like, folks, I wasn't in the world, but I was of the world. And I saw the higher vision of what was going on in the planet. And I just was amused by it because he's like, I didn't have control over it. He said, so I lit a cigarette, had a glass of wine, and watched the shit show, right? That's what he did. George, what do you think about what's going on in the planet now? So I like to put all the cards back in, do a little bit of a shuffle, come back in. What do you think of the planet now, George? This is going to be interesting, isn't it? Oh, you can't make that fucking shit up. George, why? Why would you bring, when I shuffled and you saw me shuffle, why would you bring up the same card? That's a 1 in 78 chance, folks. A 1 in 78 chance that the same card would come up again. This is George. I'm still watching the shit show with a higher vision. I'm going to keep this card out now. All right, George, you can't stalk us with that card. Now we're going to do another card. You cannot stalk us with that card now because you've already done that twice. All right, here we go. We're just going to phase through here. What does he need to say? We're still battling each other. That's true. That's true. We're still battling each other. We're always going to battle each other. He's done a lot of videos on wars and what wars are really about. He thinks that's just showing the male private part and that this is all some kind of ego. Wars are ego based on the private parts. He's just showing that we're still warring. And wow. Times are going to change. The Magician. Oh. He thinks that the world's going to have a big change. He's like, we're stepping into a new era. We're stepping into a new era. Now, this almost feels like, he talked about everything's a big electron. Ooh. Like the world is a big, electron, which I found fascinating. Ooh. That's exactly what he did. This feels like we're stepping into some sacred symbol. And of course, he said he lets the symbols be interpreted by the symbolers. So let's just keep going with him. Some big change for money. Oh, money and power. Ooh. And then we've got the Pentacles, which is money. And this is the wealthy. And they're stepping into money. Something is going to change around money. And the top leaders, the Nine of Pentacles, she is the wealthiest woman. What are you saying, George? That women might join the power and wealth with their higher vision of the Falcon. George, you think women are going to gain the power? That would be interesting. That would be interesting. He said for a successful society, you have to have equal. Men and women have to be equal. We're having a lot of contamination. A lot of these cards have contamination in them. Oop, look at the woman. She cleans it up. The woman alone cleaned up the contamination. Everybody else fucked it up. Okay, so this could be working together, or this could be the men trying to appease to the women. Hey, we're leading, and now they're like, hey, we need to get our power back. What do we got to do? What do you want? What do you want? Flowers? Bribery? And how well do the women take to bribery? Not very well, according to this card. She's picked up her weapon and she's like, I will use this on you if you try to bribe me. Just ask that piano on wheels in the background how it feels about trying to bribe me. That didn't come out of me. A piano with wheels? That's not a piano. I don't know if that's a piano. That's not a piano. I don't know where that came from. George is hilarious. George is coming through. He is funny. He's like, women are going to take control, and they're going to put the over-dominated male society. He's really, from here on, we have got the women. We've got the women taking over the power, folks. This is what George is saying. He was always a political man. Oh, here we go again. Let's just make the men disappear. Don't you appear. We're going to make you disappear like you weren't important, because all through history, the women had to disappear. Even if the women came up with the ideas, they were never given credit for. They couldn't vote. They had no rights. They were servants. And now look who's out of the picture. Look who's, hey, I'm taking over now. You can't bribe me. And you're going to be out of the picture now, because I'm going to handle things. Women, 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 women. Wow. Is George saying that we are going to start in the women? Let's think about that. The time that George was born was the 1900s. What is the 1900s about? 1 plus 9, of course, is a 1. 1 relates to the sun. Sun relates to masculine, masculine energy. So you could basically say men. Now we enter the 2000s. This is the moon. And this is a 2. And interestingly enough, we name our bowel movements. Number 1, which is pee. Number 2, which is a poop. Why am I talking about that? Because we're about to get shit straightened out. And it's not going to be through the pee. We are going to get rid of the shit. All right? And it's going to piss some people off. So there you go. You've got bowel movement therapy. This is the feminine. In other words, energy. This is the women. This is the women. Yeah. What do we have? Well, we're into, 2021, let's just call it. It's around the corner. Who's the vice president for the first time? A woman. What's her name? Kamala. What does Kamala have as the first letter of her first name? Folks, it's a 2. BKT are the 2. We've got a number 2 and a number 2. Folks, this is the start. George Carlin is saying that we are waking up to the feminine, and numerology is agreeing with George Carlin. Now, I want to ask him in the regular tarot where he thinks that our country in the United States, where is this going to go under, I forgot. I forgot the numbers. How could I forget this, Melanie? All right. Who's the president? All right. Who's the president? I'm going to write this down here. Biden. What is Biden? That's right. BKT. We now have Biden and we have Kamala, but you're saying, Melanie, that's her first name and his last name. What the fuck are you trying to pull here? Well, her last name, Harris, HQZ, are the 8, and 8 is about power. So what is her first name 2? Her last name, the first letter is 8. The women are taking power. That's what her name is. Now Joe, or Joseph, whatever he is, doesn't matter. We're looking at the first letter only. That is a very significant number in numerology. And he's a 1, right? Joseph starts with 1. But what is he doing? So here we have the masculine giving in to the feminine. The masculine allowing the feminine. Now, so his first name, it is a masculine letter, J. However, his last name is Biden. And men keep their last name forever, right? So he is open to feminine. Now, if you listen to him, he is soft-spoken, right? Soft-spoken, like a woman. He's compassionate, like a woman. He cares about people like women. So he has a lot of traits that are feminine. Now, some men might say, that is what is never going to work for this country. Really? You think the 1900s was pretty for this country? Yeah, I don't think so. That's right. That's why the world is in the situation that it's in, the planet. So we need more feminine women leaders. Now, this is according to George Carlin. And we're going to ask George Carlin, what does he think? Where does he think in 2021, where does he think that America is going to go? George Carlin. Knight of Cups. We have to realize what we love. Now, the fish are money. The fish on there are money. But this is the card about messages of love. We've got to bring more love into the country. We've got to bring more love. Men and the women working together. Yeah, George, the men and the women have to work together in harmony, right? Because they've pissed off the lion god. The lion god. George, what are you talking about? A lion with wings? The lion god. That'd be totally like him. The lion god. He's sending down the information for the humans to love. The Knight of Cups is about love, and the Two of Cups is about getting along. The people have to get along with each other. We have a lot of division in this country. Uh-oh. George Carlin also sees a lot of death coming. Well, that's already happening. We have a virus. George, just like you said, how does the planet want to rid itself of life? Well, let's see. Maybe a virus, and one that mutates, and one that hits the immune system, and one that makes you weaker and susceptible to other diseases, and one that takes maybe a lot of humans off the planet until the humans can get smart. The planet will wipe you off because the planet can survive without any humans. It's done so for billions of years, and humans are only hundreds of thousands of years old, and the planet is billions of years old. So if we get to be annoying to the planet, it will shake us off. We're going to pay more attention to the leaders. We need to have compassion. The leaders of other countries he's talking about, because in this country he is wanting women to take over everything. The governments, right down to the courts, right down to the city county boards. He wants women to be everywhere. But he also wants us to look at other leaders in other countries and build compassion, because this is the only way that we're going to rebuild this country back, is if we listen to the messages of wisdom, because the Ace of Pentacles means you rebuild, you start a new path, you rebuild with inspiration, with new ideas on better ways to do things on the planet, and giving money instead of greedy. This is handing the coin over to somebody, and the King of Cups is very giving than the greed. The greed, George is like greed, and those top powerful leaders who are greedy, families that are powerful and greedy, they got to go. Be gone, lose their power, let them be poor like everyone else, and see how that works for them, because they won't thrive very well. And George said it's going to be a battle of the kings. It's going to be a battle of the kings, the compassionate leaders against the not so compassionate leaders. King of Swords really doesn't have any compassion. He wants to fight for what he wants to own. He wants to own this land. The king is in the water. He's emotional. He's in the water. He's playing with the dolphins and the whales. This dude doesn't play. This dude fights. He's got his weapon up. He doesn't have a weapon. He's got a cup. Let's drink and be happy. Let's have a potluck. Let's eat until we're fat. This guy, he wants the trees in your backyard. He wants whatever you have. He wants all of it. And then he wants you to work for him so he can own it and you can work, and he can own it and you can work. You know, George Carlin, you are freaking brilliant. George Carlin, do you have a message for anyone listening to this video that might want some words of wisdom from you? Something that you have to say? I'm switching to the Morgan Greer deck. George Carlin, what do you have to say to anybody listening to this? Anybody listening to this at any time, what do you have to say to them? And you know what? Let's just look at George. He's looking at you very serious. He's like, are you fucking kidding me? I have a message for you. Here it is. It's over here. It's right here. Here's his message for you. This is no people. Here it is. He's showing the planet with no people. This is, I believe, that Morgan Greer took away the people of the Four of Wands. The other cards have people in there celebrating. There's no people here. What's his message for you? The planet's going to be okay. Whether you're here or whether you're not here, the planet is going to survive and be fine without any people. But this is also a message of pay attention to the spiritual laws, because the spiritual laws generate or give you inspiration to live in harmony with this planet. We have an opportunity to live in harmony with this planet if we all choose it. But the majority of people have to reject the systems that are currently on, preventing them from doing that. Now, even though there's a lot of people on the planet and very few wealthy on the planet. Even though the common people outnumber the wealthy seem to control the masses because they control their mind and they control their spiritual values. And George Carlin is like, how controlled are you? How controlled are you? How believable? I just wanted to show you also, this is the normal Four of Wands. And it's interesting that George wanted me to grab the Morgan Greer deck that I just brought down this morning because he wanted the Four of Wands not to have people in it. See, here's people all happy. They're all happy. There's no people here. People gone. So what's his message to you is that if we don't tap into the spiritual wisdom and become intelligent and unbrainwash ourselves, realize that you've been conditioned and brainwashed your whole life. If you can get out of that, that's the only way, by spiritual insights, intelligence, and wisdom, that you are going to create a world that will survive. Otherwise, according to George, we are on the path of no people, and he speaks that over and over again. And this is the card that reflects that. I'm not gonna end on a bad note, but George wanted me to end on a real note. His message is to get real. To get real. What can you change? You can be the leaf growing on a dead branch. You can be the leaf that sprouts out from a dead branch that can start to generate an awakening in the human species. And you can do this. And by one person, and someone sees, hey, they're awake and they're awake and they're awake. And that way, this could be the most harmonious planet or country that you ever wanted to live in if we will just do that. So let's all see what we can do to become more intelligent, to become more aware. What spiritual gifts do we have? What spiritual insights are there? And let's get out of the box that we have been raised in and break free. Be open to the spiritual way of living in harmony with the planet and not against the planet or nature's natural laws. Thank you, George, for being with us. You're awesome. Thank you all for being on my page. I appreciate every one of you. If you had a question for George, you think I should have asked it, I will do a new session on your questions to George Carlin. Just put them in the comments, and thank you, and have a fabulous rest of your day.